morning, Ibadan and beyond. Welcome to Price Drive and I-FLIER on the 3.3 FM, Ibadan. Your trusted source for the top headlines and in-depth analysis of the major stories making the rounds locally and globally. I am your host, MARVELLOUS, SOBALOJU, OYEDELE, and I will be guiding you through the biggest conversations shaping our world today. We're going to kick things off with top headlines, and we're going to dive into the key stories currently generating buzz across the nation and beyond. And of course, we are not going to be doing this alone. Our expert analysts will be joining us shortly to break down the issues, add valuable insight, and help us make sense of it all. We are also live on Facebook, so don't forget to join the conversation. Drop your comments, reactions, and questions on I-FLIER on the 3.3 FM live at I-FLIER 103.3 FM live, and we just might be there on air this morning. So let's get right into it. Here are the headlines making the rounds for today. As you already know, today is the 15th day in the month of July 2025. Now we're starting the headlines from the front page of the Punch newspaper. Natasha fires back at Abio over reinstatement challenge. That's on page 30 of the Punch. Dara Kinsmen associates reflect on Buhari's final months. State burial begins in Abuja today. Interment to follow in Katsina. I was hospitalized in same London facility as Abuja as Buhari. That's coming from Abdul Salami. I was hospitalized in same London facility as Buhari, coming from Abdul Salami. And Jonathan visits Aisha in London as Amoso, Lawan, others arrive Dara. Tinubu appoints Kume, Ribadu, others to burial committee, and federal government delegations visits Aisha, Maman, Dara, and Abdul Salami in London. So you get to check all of the story on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Soldiers bar traditionalists from Awujale's Muslim funeral. Oshibajo, governors Oshoba, Daniel, Dangote, Grace Awujale's burial. Alright, to get to check that as well on page 27 of the Punch newspaper. Naira rebound to 4-month high trade, 1,518 naira per dollar. I'll take that headline again. Naira rebounds to 4-month high trades, 1,518 naira per dollar. Check page 25 for that story. On page 20 of the Punch paper as well, workers begin strike over 82 billion naira pension arrears. Workers begin strike over 82 billion naira pension arrears. That's on page 20. Also on page 20, we have 2027 Adeleke attacks Aregbesola over plan to oust governor. Check page 29 actually of the Punch newspaper. And from the Daily Trust newspaper, we have this headlines on the front page. How Lagos local government poll was won and lost. How Lagos local government poll was won and lost. Check page 13 of the Daily Trust for that one. On page 21 as well of the same paper, 4 killed, many injured in Kano building collapse. On page 33, succession move begins as Awujale's is buried. Succession move begins after Awujale's burial. That's on page 33. They are set for Buhari's burial as Nigeria mourn. They are set for Buhari's burial as Daily Trust newspaper. Residents flee as bandits attack Niger communities, kill sets, abduct over 20. You get to check that as well on page 25 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And moving now to the Guardian front page, we have this headline steering. Gunmen killed 2 evangelists in fresh plateau attack. That's on page 30. Akpabio appeal against court order for Natasha's recall. That's on page 3. Calls for melting deregulation intensified. Calls for metering degeneration intensify as expert warn of widening gap. That's on page 18. Pay TV struggles as more Nigerians opt for mobile streaming services. That's on page 6. And Buhari gets state funeral as critics folds National Assembly week-long tribute. That's on page 6. Oshibajo, Dangote, Abiodun, others beat Awujale farewell. That's on page 2. US threatens visa validity defaulters with deportation and lifelong ban. That's on page 3. Also, Buhari represented unity, equity was misunderstood. You get to check that on page 4 as well. Tight security in Dara as Katsina awaits Buhari. Risk extinction, CSO tells UN. And that's on page 30 of the Guardian. And moving now to the New Telegraph newspaper, we have the headlines. On par, Discos build Nigerians 2.19 billion naira for electricity in 2024. You can check the front page of the New Telegraph and continue on page 3. This is a report. E-payment deals dipped 8.9% to 103.19 trillion naira in June. That's on page 8 of the New Telegraph. And this is also on Buhari. His achievements, failures, unusual moments. That's on page 9, page 10, and page 11. Court bars IBADAN from inaugurating new River Service Commission. That's on page 3. Don't probe Obaseki. Wike advises Okpebholo. Apologizes to Oshiomhole for humiliating him. That's on page 4. World oldest president Biya to seek 8th term. Alright, that's all on Buhari. Condolences continue to pour in from across the globe. You get to check who are paying the late former presidents, tribute. You get to check that on page 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the New Telegraph. Why UNICAL student may not graduate. That's coming from the VC, and that's on page 30. 5,000 applicants just so for PTDF's overseas scholarship. That's on page 27. Awujale of Ijebu over Sikiru and Etono laid to rest. That's on page 4 and 7. US threatens visa overstayers with lifetime ban. Ukraine, Trump gives Russia 50-day ultimatum, threatens very severe tariffs. That's on page 2 and 4 of the New Telegraph. And household, that's on page 29. And from the Nigerian Tribune, all set for Buhari's burial, Tinubu to receive body in Katsina. Body to arrive by noon. Interment set for 2 p.m. today. Federal government declares public holiday. Condolence registers to be opened in MDAs, ICC, Nigerian embassies, missions abroad. National Assembly suspend legislative activities for 1 week. That's on page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune. The Patriots shift Constitutional Summit to Wednesday to honor Buhari and Awujale. That's on PL. Many persons seems to be criticizing the National Assembly for going on a 1 week break to honor Buhari. This time we get to check out this one. Remember, we're live on Facebook. Our Facebook is at I-FLIER 103.3 FM Live. Drop your comments right there, and would love to read from you this morning. With me in the house is Barrister Folasholapo. Good morning to you, sir.
Yes, good morning this morning, darling. Hope you had a very good night's rest. Nigerians, yes, another day we glorify God for that. But do not remember, whatever position you are holding today, it is just for a brief time. You will stay in that place, and before you know what is happening, you are no longer there. Another person will be there. So watch out for what you do while you are in power. It will become history tomorrow. Good morning this morning.
Thank you very much for that inspiring words. Right, so Buhari represented unity, equity, but was misunderstood. Alright, so immediate past governor of Ekiti State and former chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, has expressed deep sorrow over the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away in London on Sunday after a brief illness. In a statement personally signed by him yesterday, Fayemi described the late president as a man of deep conviction and great tenacity, who never gave up on his dream of leading Nigeria democratically despite suffering several electoral defeats before his eventual victory in 2015. While acknowledging the challenges Buhari faced during his tenure, he emphasized that the late leader was a fundamentally good man, often misunderstood, yet driven by a genuine desire to see Nigeria succeed. Former Lagos State Governor Mr. Akinwumi Ambode, in his reaction, called on Nigerians to uphold the ideals of unity, equity, and visionary governance as he paid tribute to the late Buhari. His calm, strength, discipline, and belief in Nigerians' promises are value we must not lose, Ambode said. A lot of other persons paid tribute to him, but that's not where we're going. I'm actually going to the words of the former Ekiti State Governor, who said that he represented unity and equity, but is often misunderstood. Because since we all got the shocking news on Sunday, Mr. President, since Nigerians are divided, some person seems to be throwing jabs. In even at the late former president, while some other persons have some good things to say about him. All right. So, what do you have to make of this? Is it true that many Nigerians seem to have misunderstood him? Does it really represent what they say it represents, unity and equity?
Well, thank you very much. Of course, in our culture, it's not fitting to speak evil of the dead. And probably that is why he seems to be having divided comments regarding his lifetime. It depends on which side you are. If you are, for instance, a traditionalist, like a person who believes that you should not say ill of the dead, and to that extent, all you will say will be something that at least try to glorify the man. But again, when you look at everything he did, when you look at it, well, whether it's a patriot, I don't know because a patriot will not be part of a coup, and it not only took part in the 1963 coup. He was the president. He was the head of state. So, and he had several positions in military government. Commissioner for the governor of northeastern states, and thereafter the governor, the head of state. So I don't think any patriot, of course they will say they are driven by the vision to save the country, and of course too, most of the time we cannot blame them then, because the politicians have this way of behaving as if they are above the law, like they are behaving now. If it were before, I know the military would have struck and took power from them, But of course, again, what he did, if many of us were not born in all those 1960s and all, 2023, at least whether it's a unifier or a patriot, that one is very open. One, because if you are a unifier, you don't behave as if you belong to a particular people more than the other, because you are the president, and as president you are president of all the ethnic groups of this country. So to that extent, you belong to every community of this country. That is why when they are campaigning, they go to the east, they put on the eastern regalia. They go to the west, they dress like the westerners. They come to the west, they dress like the west, the Yorubas. They go to the north, they dress like us. So they know that as a leader, you are not expected to bend the word on particular people. But the 2015 to 2020, 2023 rule makes it, in fact, the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, to write him an open letter to him personally, to accuse him of Fulanization and Islamization of the country. So meaning that even the former president knew that what he was doing, according at that time, was not unifying this country. But like I said, you don't unnecessarily talk ill of the dead. Of course, there are several things he did right too. I mentioned one yesterday, which is the passage of the petroleum industry. Then it was his time too that the COVID came and was able to manage it. And we have about 2 economic depressions throughout the world, and was able to manage that of Nigeria. So it has both good and bad. But that is a unifier. I don't understand that, because a unifier will not seem to lean to one particular people than the other. If you are a unifier, you have to be straight. You have to, in fact, you have to show within you that no, we will not, bend this rule because I am from that side. Even his ministers, people were complaining that it appears it favors one ethnic society more than the others. And he said that it's because some people voted for him more than the others. That's why it's not chosen for many of them. But the Constitution did not say that. The Constitution, actually provided for a national character, that whatever political positions that is being put in place, that all the nationalities have to be involved. But for him, it was not like that. Of course, okay, like I said, he did several things that were okay. But whether he's a unifier or not, I do not want to agree with that because of his antecedents and whatever we have seen concerning him. But of course, he said he's a good man. Let's agree that he's a good man.
Because some other persons believe that, he had some health challenge during his time as president, and they believe that it's possible that, the ministers and other persons working with him probably frustrated Nigerian more and not him.
But the buck stopped on his table. For instance, the Cameroonian president is seeking an 8th term.
It's like the oldest
and it's 92. Can you imagine? 92. For instance, in Nigeria, you say 35 person is too old to work. When you work for 35 years, or even that if you are 35 years old, you cannot even begin to look for job anymore. But when it comes to ruling this country, 70 is not too old. And you see, that's why sometimes we seem to be missing things. You look at some other countries, you see youths, very 30, 34, 20 something, becoming the president or prime minister or that. But here, I don't know, we just continue to, recycle them. In fact, since I was born and I think I begin to know some things, all these names that we've been mentioning, when Buhari became the head of state in 1983, I was in class 3, and Buhari is still ruling till now. When even though I don't know, but of course, we should stop all this recycling. The box stopped on his table. So whether he did right or not. So for instance, Obama said something when after the killing of Osama bin Laden. So a Navy SEAL that participated in that thing, said it was not the president that killed him, that they were the ones that they should not give the president the glory. But Obama, the president of the United States of America, then said, well, you cannot go there except and give it to the president. Might be a good man, but from what he did, from history, for instance, who can say, because he's president, who can say the Negas war does not affect people, and the family, yes, and the families that have their people dying or dead, even at that time, because they can't get money for treatment, they can't get money for food, they can't get money for anything. Are they going to tell us today that Buhari is a unifier? And was done to Buhari himself become the president of this country. He said that Buhari already had a bulk of votes for him, and that Tinubu and the rest of the parties that came to join only provided Buhari. He said, no, it's not like that. We have been having all those votes. Did we win? Not until they joined with other people, and Buhari and Tinubu made sure that Buhari came out as the presidential candidate of APC then. Because there were caucus, there were some other people that were jostling for that. But Tinubu and Fatula ensured that he won as the presidential candidate. They begin to say a whole lot of things that, like, as if it's more saintly than even Jesus himself. But of course, history is history. There's nothing we can do. Like I said, we will not speak in of the dead, but when it comes to some specific actions that we can see and that is in writing to the then there's nothing we can do about that.
Now, the National Assembly decision to suspend legislative activities for 1 week in honor of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari has drawn criticism from stakeholders who accuse lawmakers of exploiting the tragedy for personal convenience. One of the persons who spoke was is the constitutional lawyer and human rights advocate, Chief Mike Zekome, faulted the Assembly's decision, describing it as excessive and ill-timed in a nation that is grappling with serious social economic challenges. Speaking on the telephone interview, the former president, who also served as military head.
Because even if they are sitting, what do they do?
Okay.
Yeah, no. So if they are sitting, they sit.
Okay, so we're going to open the studio line soon, but we'll read another story, please. Alright, still in the Senate now, but Akpabio challenges court order recalling suspended Senator Natasha. Senate President Godswill Akpabio has filed a formal appeal at the Court of Appeal in Abuja, seeking to overturn a judgment of the Federal High Court that ordered the recall of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan to the Senate. The legal development marked a deepening confrontation between the judiciary
that was submitted to it, and that matter was submitted to it. So it is expected that the court will reach a decision. So whether that decision is right or not is subject to appeal, which they have done. It is their right to appeal, but that's not a confrontation like the paper said. No, they have the right to appeal, and in fact, I am very happy that they went on appeal. Not because I did not like that judgment of the High Court, but because the High Court is a lower court, and later when such a thing happened, some other court can hold otherwise. But when that the laws that they made is actually consonant with that of the Constitution, and if you remember what the court, the Justice Yakub's court said, the provision of that their ethics whatever that is contrary to the Constitution, which provided that each senatorial district or each person or Nigerians should be represented at the National Assembly. So if that law that they made for themselves is to a higher court, so but at the end of the day we have it settled once and for all that the National Assembly cannot be punishing their members by
a religious disposition. All right, so even though it's been like what we have known, and that every time kings, I don't want to say that, but say kings don't die when they join their ancestors.
They climb the Aja, all the time in English.
Silly, whatever he was accusing. Alright, so they say that usually traditionalists are present, but this is an eye opener. I didn't know there's a law like that which stipulates that.
So when that law was passed in 2021, there were a whole lot of brouhaha even surrounding it. That of course the law has admitted that or admits that cabeces could be buried according to customs, but if any one of them that decided to be buried otherwise, maybe according to their religion, then should be allowed to do that. Something like that happened during the interment and the traditionalists. It appears eventually the Muslim terrorists won and the traditionalists were sent out. So, but one thing I just want to say is this. So in those days, from abroad to become king, how would they know the tradition? And that is why I seem to like that of the IBADAN traditional something.
This morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Ravi.
Yes, my name is Kile Walavi from Lagos State. I just want to comment on the Labour Congress, the TUC and the Democratic Council. They are set to begin strike over their unlimited 2 billion naira pension deducted from their salary. How can they, this NSC, also the national,
You're with you.
yeah, the national personality, are they, why don't so, why are they so, are they do good job? They are not giving money to their ways, but they are not happy. And this is money deducted from the staff that
Properties, we offer professional, reliable, world-class services. Build your choice homes in any of our estates across Nigeria. Land and properties bought at Anajat Homes is free from all encumbrances. No extra charges, no land grabbing, no Omonile Wahala. Our land sales come with CFO, red copy survey, and other valid documents. Grab this special offer. Now selling Comfort Estate near Circular Road, Ajia, Matako, Ibadan. There is accommodation for installment payments. Enjoy 500,000.
Says, good morning. As the former President, General Muhammad Buhari, would be buried today, I commiserate with his family and the entire nation. May God repose his soul, but I think his death should be a lesson to all the public office holders that nothing lasts forever, because his administration was nothing but a disaster and a great disservice to this nation due to his high level of insensitivity. Highly pathetic. Those are the words of the line. And then he added by saying, when will the Senate President stop being in the judgment on the imbroglio between him and Senator Natasha? It is worrisome that those saddled with the responsibility of legislating on bills and motions that would move the country forward are busy doing the unthinkable. What a nation. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Marvelous.
Good morning to you, Sister Ruth.
Yes, ma'am. This calling from Malapa.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sorry, good morning this morning.
Yes, sir.
Hope you stay well.
Yes, sir. On the part of the former Nigeria president, David Sako, now we just see this opportunity to call on our leaders to always found here. Has it been President who has in approach? So that's what we keep happening to those people that they decide not to be able to with the man. That's what we learn from this chat, because one day, let's take it on. Good morning.
Okay, number 3. Ademola Okunlola says, beautiful morning to you. As the former president will be buried today, it is time for our leaders to have a deep reflection and know that nothing lasts forever. Our leaders should rule us with love and the fear of God, because death is the final destination of all. If Buhari had prioritized health sector, maybe the story might be different today. May his soul rest in peace. Hello, good morning. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you very much, sir. Good morning.
I pray that may God Almighty bless you
Amen.
and protect you from all the calamities of this country.
Amen.
My name is Eldadika Afolabi from Adokwa Palace Company, IBADAN.
You are most welcome.
Though it is good to honor or to mourn the death of our immediate past president, Buhari, as death is
Good morning to you all.
Good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, we have to say my name from Olosan from
You're welcome,
welcome,
sir.
sir.
Yeah, very quickly, I also sympathize with the work from our president Buhari, and like I said, everybody. I mean, they're not even really that's how they treat the
Thank you very much.
Ayodele, Baba Adina has just told us how Pastor Akindele, the monarch of Ibadan then, was buried. But in that time, everybody knows that he's a pastor, and he doesn't do anything that has to do with tradition. So he was buried according to what he believed, and that like Pastor Adele said, today's traditionalists, traditional rulers are just, into one religion by mouth. They are not actually there. They converge and do whatever the traditionalists do when they are alive, and then when they now die, they want to be buried according to their quote religion. Of course, that is why it is very difficult for the traditionalists themselves